Salut tout le monde, comment ça va? I feel bad that my French is so poor considering it's one of our national languages, but today we're going to be talking about Paris, and obviously not the city Paris. Paris the Pokemon, a very interesting Pokemon, one a lot of you have wanted me to do for months now, so I figured after having done Abra, pretty much anything would be a nice break, so it was a good time to do Paris. Now, Paris has a huge problem. Actually, it is two, but the biggest problem is its typing. Paris is bug and grass. In current generations, that means Paris has two 4x weaknesses, fire and flying. In Generation 1, Poison is also super effective against Bug, so it has three 4x weaknesses, and Poison moves are used early on, so the early game for Paris sucks. Like, it's not the worst, it's obviously way better than Abra, but the only move we have to use at this point is Scratch, and the Bug Catcher, who uses a Weedle, is tough. Funny enough, in Yellow this wouldn't be such a problem because they use Caterpie, but since everyone uses a Weedle, we actually have to grind up experience points just to get by the Bug Catchers. And even once we do, it's not like Brock is going to be easy this time around. I mean, again, better than using Struggle with Abra, but Scratch is not a really good attack. And the only other attack Paris will get prior to level 20 is Stun Spore. And that seems like it would be a lot more helpful than it really is because Brock has a whole bunch of full heals. I believe 5 per Pokemon, if I'm not mistaken. So while not completely useless, it's not nearly as useful as I would like. At level 20, Paris will get Leech Life, which ordinarily would be a terrible move, but when compared to Scratch, it does get the same type attack bonus, and it isn't resisted by either ground or rock. So it would be quite a useful move. Plus, gaining some HP back would allow me to take quite a few more attacks from the Geodude and Onix. Once it was becoming clear I wasn't knocking out either Geodude or Onix anytime soon, I figured I would need to get to level 20 before I was able to win. And another thing we should talk about that I alluded to earlier is Paris has a second problem. In addition to its typing, its speed. Base 25 is slow, really slow. And since critical hits are dependent on speed, Paris has about a 4% chance on every hit to get a critical hit. That's an issue because at least Abra was able to get through all those defense curls since critical hits ignore all buffs from opposing Pokemon, but I wasn't getting very many of them. I was getting one per battle because, you know, you have to attack about 25 times, so the odds are you will, but not nearly as many as I'd like. Funny enough though, I didn't end up needing to get all the way to level 20 to beat Brock. I actually won at level 19, which is kind of hilarious because, well, I was so close and yet I ended up winning just a little bit before. And because I won before, there's not really a ton of strategy to talk about. I mean, you're seeing the fight. Use Scratch, hope for some critical hits. Then with the Onix, use Scratch. If he uses Bide, just use Stun Spore. Eventually Brock will heal, but he heals every turn, and every turn you use Stun Spore, so the Onix will actually eventually be paralyzed. And this helps because 1 out of every 4 turns on average, Onix won't attack, which is very, very useful. You see it happening quite a bit, and it allowed me to get off all the scratches I needed. Thankfully, 35 was enough. I was worried about running out because if that happened, I probably would have lost, but it didn't, and I ended up beating Brock. Just to compare though, it took me about 2 hours to get Paris up to level 20. Abra to get to level 20 took me, I think, around 7 or 8. That's how annoying it was to keep going back into the grass and using up all the teleports. I am not going to miss that. After you beat Brock, the game actually gets really, really easy. At least for a little while. None of the trainers in Mount Moon or Route 3 are any kind of problem. One thing I do want to mention though that you'll notice, Leech Life is super effective against Poison type. The typings were completely changed after Gen 1, but in Gen 1, Bug is super effective against Poison. Nowadays, poison actually resists bugs, so a complete 180, and that makes Leech Life super useful because there are a whole bunch of poison Pokemon, a lot of Nidoran coming up, and it allows me to switch between Scratch and Leech Life and just get through Pokemon very efficiently. But even during this easier part, there is still an obstacle. Rival 2 isn't a joke by any means. Pidgeotto consistently is a big troll because Sand Attack will just lower your accuracy and will cause you to lose. The way I found best to deal with that is to lead off with Stun Spore. Paris is so slow that the Pidgeotto outspeeds me. Then you just knock it out with some scratches. I used Leech Life on the Abra to get most of my health back, and then I tried to use it on the Rattata. Maybe I should have just gone for Scratch. I think it would have been 2 scratches, and in the end, probably would have been better health-wise, but I'm not completely sure. Anyway, I did use Scratch on the last hit, and then Charmander, you just kind of have to hope it doesn't hit you with Ember, since I'm pretty sure at 32 health that would be it for me. Thankfully, Rival just attacks randomly, and I'm able to win. A little bit of luck in this fight, nothing too bad, and there's really nothing all that interesting on the way to Bill's house or anything. So let's skip ahead to Misty. Funny enough, much harder than Misty is the trainer with the Goldeen, because, well, Goldeen has Peck, and Peck is double super effective against me. It actually was kind of difficult to beat the Goldeen trainer, and you have to actually beat her in order to face Misty. And Misty herself is a complete joke because Staryu isn't really too much of a problem at all, and Starmie's greatest attacks are water attacks, which I resist. Plus, Leech Life is still super effective against Psychic Pokemon. Thankfully, that is still a thing. And sure, you can use Stun Spore and Dig will do a lot more damage, but I just wanted to show you that with Misty, you pretty much can do whatever you want, and you win. The next little section of the game is just about as easy. We're going to board the SSN and get Body Slam to replace Scratch. Body Slam, very, very useful on Paris, and it will help us fight rival number 3, although we're going to be using Dig a little bit more. We're going to Body Slam the Pidgeotto, and hope we don't get Sand Attack. I did, but it failed. In Gen 1, 25% chance status moves fail. Thank gosh. Dig will one-hit KO the Raticate. Once again, I misclick and went for Stun Spore. I just need to use 1 Leech Life against the Kadabra. And Charmeleon does get off an Ember. It does do pretty decent damage, but not nearly enough. And Dig is super effective and will one-hit KO. And then, as if I wasn't having an easy enough time, I get access to Spore, a move that puts opponents to sleep 100% of the time. It is, to this day, the best sleeping move in all of Pokemon. Unfortunately, most of the Pokemon that get it are really slow, but it goes without saying having access to a move like that will help out tremendously the rest of the way. Not that we really need it right now. We're going to go fight Lieutenant Surge, and you just need to use Dig. Lieutenant Surge isn't going to be a complete pushover because Voltorb can use Sonic Boom, and Pikachu and Raichu can both hit you with normal attacks. Or critical hit with Thunderbolt, which did pretty decent damage, but the Sonic Boom missed, so kind of evens out. Anyway, wasn't very difficult, first try victory, and after you beat Lieutenant Surge, the game stays easy. Between Body Slam, Leech Life, and Dig, pretty much anything that the next few routes throw at us, we can take down without too much of a problem, and we can move on to Celadon. Usually, I'd go to the Rocket Hideout first, but I want to go and fight Erica because we're going to replace Leech Life really soon, and Leech Life is super useful. It is going to be 4 times effective both against the Execute that we fight before Erica and her Victory Bell and Vileplume. Having said that, I did lose my first time to Erica, and the reason why is my bad speed combined with the fact that Bind and Wrap are super cheap. In Generation 1, they hit every single turn and you can't attack. Does something completely different since then. Obviously, this is why. So if you're slower than the opponent and they hit you with Wrap, yes, all the variants have a chance to miss you between 15 and 30%, but that's still a pretty good chance it hits. You can lose the battle without ever getting to attack. Thankfully, second time around, Tangela decided to use Constrict as opposed to Bind, and I was able to get past the Victreebel and Vileplume without any issues whatsoever. Erica can do next to nothing with her grass moves, and so we get the victory, but more importantly, we get Mega Drain, and aside from Solar Beam, which is pretty much unusable in Generation 1 because it takes 2 turns, there's no way to speed that up, it's the only damaging grass move that Paris gets, so we're going to overwrite Leech Life and teach Mega Drain. And Mega Drain will be super helpful against Team Rocket members and Giovanni because he has 2 rock Pokemon. Mega Drain will one-hit KO, and the Kangaskhan, although it does outspeed us, didn't provide too many problems. I mean, this fight really shouldn't be mentioned anymore because it's so easy, but whatever, I win, and it's time to move on to rival number 4. Now, he's not overly difficult, but this battle does illustrate the problems that are about to occur. So, Pidgeotto was not a one-hit KO with Body Slam, and it hit me with the Sand Attack, which is pretty annoying. The Execute probably would not have been a one-hit KO either, except I got a critical hit. That helps out because the Execute can be really annoying. Then comes out the Gyarados. It outspeeds me and I go for Spore, then I try Mega Drain, which is normal effective. You can see how little damage it's doing. I decide to then go for Body Slam, and it misses. Thanks so much, Pidgeotto, very helpful. Thankfully, I get the Paralysis on the next turn. The Gyarados is obviously woken up. Knock it out without too many problems. Then the Kadabra comes out. Body Slam will be a one-hit KO, goes for Disable. I miss again. How about Teleport? Nope, another miss. Confusion? Okay, I guess we can hit it now. Beautiful, but how are we gonna fare against the Charmeleon? Thankfully, it's still using Ember, does go for it, does pretty decent damage, but I don't miss with Dig, and I'm able to beat Rival 4 on my first try. However, I think it's pretty obvious that the Rival is going to be a significant problem. I didn't even need to explain why I had the Rival pick Charmander. It was just so obvious that would be just awful for me to deal with. Fire and flying, just goodness. So yeah, I just can't wait for the next few fights against the Rival. But before then, we have an easy Pokemon Tower section, and then we can head to Fuchsia. And Fuchsia is the Poison Gym, and we have Dig, so it's going to be easy. No. Now, remember I said the game gets easy for a little bit? Yeah, that bit's over. In a big way. The game is now super difficult, and I'm not saying that for an ad break or to hype up the rest of the video. Paris is in real trouble, because let's look at what we have to do. We have to try and defeat Koga, who uses poison moves, which are 4 times effective against Paris. We have to try and beat Blaine, who has fire moves, which are 4 times effective against Paris. We have to go and beat Sylph Company before we can battle Sabrina, and we have to deal with a Charizard, which has fire moves. So no matter which way we want to go, there is a very difficult obstacle in our path. I thought Koga would be the easiest. He was not. As bad as we think of Muck and Weezing's speed, compared to Paris, even a high-leveled Paris, and I ended up going all the way to level 50, you're not winning. Basically, I wasn't even one-hit KOing the Coughing, and the Muck would use Sludge, and that was it. Sometimes I'd get to the Weezing if I got lucky, but it could also use Sludge, so no, that wasn't working out. Sylph Company, I could beat Rockets, but trying to beat the Rival just wasn't happening. Rival Fivel's Pokemon are all evolved now, and so we have a Wing Attack using Pidgeot. Wing Attack, not nearly as dangerous as it's going to be in Generation 2, but still, you can see the damage it does at level 40, not getting past the Rival. And you can forget about Blaine and Sabrina because you need to beat the Rival to get through Sylph Company to fight Sabrina. You need to get Surf, which you can only use outside of battle if you beat Koga. I'm not able to beat either of them. It's the first time in a really long time I'm just really stuck. And I don't want to use my rare candies if I don't have to, because I'm not really convinced this is a temporary setback. I'm starting to look ahead, and I'm thinking that this is going to be a problem for a long time. Unfortunately, while I did look ahead not to use the rare candy, I do make a just brutal mistake, which we'll talk about shortly. In the meantime, I fight every trainer in Koga's gym. I fight pretty much every single rocket in Sylph Company. Yes, every single one, and the scientists, and the one juggler, and I fought all the trainers in the fighting dojo. I also used all the money I gained to try and buy vitamins to boost Paris's speed, then its attack, then its HP and defense. All with the hopes of trying to get by this section. Slowly but surely, I was making progress. Also in Sylph Company, you can get Swords Dance, and since Paris's attack is higher than its special attack, Swords Dance would be useful, plus I'd be able to one-hit KO every single one of Koga's Pokemon. But first, I'd need to start outspeeding at least most of them, and at level 50 that happened. I was able to outspeed the Coughing and the Muck, set up the Swords Dance, and I was able to take out all his Pokemon. Now, Wheezing, I wasn't sure if a Sludge would one-hit KO me. I tried this battle like 5 times. For whatever reason, Koga refused to use Sludge. It drove me crazy. I didn't know if I'd over-leveled or whatever. Turns out I really didn't, because Rival Fivel is going to be way tougher. Anyway, I was annoyed, but I won. Hooray. It took me a really long time. You can see I leveled up 10 levels without rare candies. And there is actually a very good reason not to use rare candies. In Pokemon games, you do get better stats by battling other Pokemon. I don't want to really get into the mechanics, but there were benefits, especially to my speed, battling a bunch of Pokemon. Anyway, after I beat Koga, I went to go battle Rival Fivel, and it wasn't working. But the reason it wasn't working was entirely my fault. You see, in trying to beat Koga and get through the game, I decided to delete Body Slam. The logic was I was going to use Growth and Mega Drain for pretty much every Pokemon, and then Dig was more powerful than Body Slam. This could not have been a dumber move. I needed to delete Dig, because what is the Pokemon that Mega Drain is going to have the toughest time against? Fire and Flying Pokemon. Oh, you mean like Charizard? The final Pokemon you're gonna face in this run? Hello? How I didn't think about that is baffling, but it just shows everyone makes mistakes. Thankfully there is a backup, but it isn't the best. Double Edge is 100 base power versus 85, but it deals a quarter of recoil damage. So I wasn't able to get past Rival Fivel because even though I had a strategy, I would use Spore, I would use 3 Swords Dance, and after you beat Koga, the badge boost glitch includes speed. For those of you who are wondering, because I always mention the badge boost glitch, just so everyone's on the same page, the way it's supposed to work is after you get an even numbered badge, a stat is supposed to be boosted by 12.5% at the beginning of a battle in single player. The way it actually works is every time your stats are modified, they are boosted another 12.5%. Koga is the one that boosts your speed, so every time I use Swords Dance that modifies my stats, my speed is boosted 12.5%. Because of that, you'll notice I start out speeding Pokemon when I shouldn't be. If I stuck with Body Slam, I would have been fine, because 3 Swords Dance are more than enough, makes up for the lack of power, and no recoil. But I wasn't able to get past the rival because although I would win, I would faint due to recoil, and that counts as a loss. The only reason it wouldn't is because I have other Pokemon that are supposed to be there for HM purposes only. They're not there to help me win battles, even just by passively existing. Well, fun fact, even at level 51, I'm not able to beat the rival. So, because I can't get Lapras, I go and catch a Poliwag, surf over to Cinnabar, and yes, I'm actually going to battle Blaine before Sabrina with a Paris because I cannot beat Rival Fivel. Now, Blaine is actually not as tough as you would think because of, yes, the badge boost glitch and my high level. I also battled every single Pokemon in Blaine's gym because we need those experience points and those stat increases if we're going to beat Rival Fivel. Anyway, Blaine himself is kind of a letdown in a Paris challenge. I know, I'm sorry. At my current level with my speed, I outspeed the Growlithe, so I'm able to use Spore, very useful, set up 3 Sword Stance, which is also increasing my speed, and because of that, I'm able to outspeed the rest of Blaine's Pokemon and knock them all out with Dig. But, okay, we're at level 54. Surely that's good enough to beat the rival, right? Yes and no. Unfortunately, one thing I should mention about the badge boost glitch is when you level up, it goes away. So the game actually functions as it's supposed to for like 5 seconds. However, there's a very easy way to avoid that. We simply manipulate our experience points so we don't level up in the middle of a fight. And after doing that, finally at level 55, I'm able to tank a Wing Attack, use Spore, set up my Sword Stance, and alternate between Double Edge for the flying Pokemon and Dig for the other Pokemon, and I'm able to outspeed everything, even the Alakazam and the Charizard, although I'm pretty over-leveled. Nonetheless, this is one of the tougher fights I've actually done in one of these runs, other than Brock with Abra. So I'm pretty relieved, but also annoyed with myself, since if I had Body Slam, I may have been able to win sooner, but I don't know, because would I have outsped the Charizard? It's a legitimate question. Anyway, doesn't matter. We can now fight Sabrina, and Sabrina isn't too difficult at all. We're going to use the same strategy that we used for Rival Fivel, and honestly, it really shouldn't have worked. So I outspeed the Kadabra, then I use Dig on the Mr. Mime, but because I use Dig and it's a 2-turn attack, it sets up Barrier. Thankfully, it's still a one-hit KO because of the 3 Sword Stance, but I level up. So now I'm not outspeeding anything anymore, but Venomoth goes for Poison Powder because Poison equals good move against Bug Grass, doesn't hit, and Alakazam goes for Recover. Obviously, I could have manipulated my experience points again so that wouldn't happen, but I didn't need to. Sabrina was a little easier than expected, and I know people are going to ask, yes, I skipped the Giovanni fight from before because you're pretty much just going to see a better version of it now, and neither of them are all that interesting. And I really tried to make this one interesting. I only set up a single Sword Stance, so no badge boost glitch, really. I don't increase my speed all that much. Everything will be a one-hit KO since Dig is super effective, but I get outsped by the Dugtrio, and the Nidoking outspeeds me and hits me with Poison Sting. 8 times damage, 4 times plus critical hit. Still, Poison Sting is just that bad. Can't wait for the Weedle run. Goodness, that's going to be fun. And I beat Giovanni, no problems. But Giovanni is not a really good barometer for whether we're ready for the Elite Four. Rival 6 is, and I wasn't having any luck against Rival 6. It's the same fight as Rival 5, which took me forever to get past, and he has better moves and stronger Pokemon, so yeah, it wasn't working. Especially since I was relying on Double Edge, which dealt recoil damage, and Paris is so slow, I wasn't outspeeding anything. It was just bad, and I had to start to think, okay, what could I use instead of Double Edge? And here's the problem. Nothing works. Cut is base 50 power. If I have to, I guess I could use that. But every other move is either 2-turn or does recoil. There isn't a lot to choose from. And that's what I love about Generation 1. You really have to make do with what you're given. And I'm given a couple things I could be utilizing. One is Mimic. I know people keep making fun that I use Mimic, but in Generation 1 it is overpowered. In later generations it just copies the last move, but here I can pick my move, so I'm going to use it. It will be somewhat helpful, although Body Slam would have been better. And I'm going to use the rare candies because I need to level up, and I've fought all the toughest trainers at this point, and it takes more experience to level up later in the game, so here's the time to use it. And the combination of Mimic and the rare candies actually helps out a great deal, because Pidgeot still has Quick Attack. We're not actually going to outspeed everything. We don't outspeed either the Charizard or the Alakazam. With Quick Attack, we do. But the question is whether it's going to one-hit KO, and it will not one-hit KO the Charizard. So what I end up doing is pretty ridiculous, but Rhyhorn knows Tail Whip. I can manipulate not one, but I actually need 2 more badge boost glitches to guarantee a one-hit KO against the Charizard. And I realize how silly this looks, just waiting for Rhyhorn to use Tail Whip, which is not supposed to help me at all. It is the most Gen 1 thing I've ever done in one of these runs, and I felt so ridiculous doing it, but it's also kind of awesome. I mean, Generation 1 is broken in so many ways, might as well use some of those to my advantage. Finally, I'm able to get by Rival 6 and move on to the Elite 4. I chose not to battle any trainers in Victory Road just because I always like to see how low a level I can get through the game, because, well, frankly, you can tell if you've underleveled since you don't win or it's inconsistent. If you overlevel, there's no way to know because, well, you win and it's, well, impossible to go back and see what could have been. Alright, having said that, I started Loralee at level 68, and the strategy against her is very, very simple and easy. I actually outspeed the Dugong, use Spore, set up a 3 Swords Dance, and then use 5 Digs. And that's all. Thanks to the badge boost glitch, I even outspeed the Jinx, and even if I get a critical hit most of the time, I'm fine, except against the Slowbro, which doesn't usually hit me. Not bad. And Bruno is just about as easy. If you're paying attention, which I wasn't, and I forgot to set up the Swords Dance, so I used Dig, it doesn't one-hit KO. Now I'm not going to actually have enough power points to get through Bruno, so I have to mimic Slam, which takes out the Onyx. Then I decide, okay, time to not make that mistake again. Put the Hitmonchan to sleep, use the 3 Swords Dance, and sweep through the rest of Bruno's team with Dig. I will level up during this fight, that's intentional. You're going to level up during one of the fights. Bruno is by far the least dangerous, so he's the one I want to level up against. And even though I don't outspeed the Hitmonlee, doesn't really matter. Bruno, like always, very easy, but how about Agatha? Like in a lot of runs, whatever you get first with Gengar is going to determine how it's going to look. I get Nightshade, and I should be in the clear except she swaps to Golbat, which is a huge problem since it knows Wing Attack, and Supersonic, which I really don't want to have to deal with. Especially since, even though I've now put Golbat to sleep, if you hit yourself in confusion, you deal pretty significant damage since, you know, I'm boosting my attack. Thankfully, the confusion keeps off, I'm able to keep it asleep, Spore being 100%, super great. I mimic Wing Attack because I need a move that will actually hit the Golbat. It's not a one-hit KO, but it's asleep, so no big deal. The Gengar still outspeeds me, even with the 3 Swords Dance, but it's also asleep, so no big deal. I do outspeed both Haunter and Arbok, then I level up. Again, not really a problem because I wasn't going to outspeed Gengar number 2 anyway. I really don't want to see Confuse Ray because Dig is a 2-turn attack, and it goes for Dream Eater. Great. Dig knocks it out, and we've beaten Agatha. Hooray! But that just means we get to fight Lance, who has 3 flying Pokemon, and my best move is a ground attack. But don't worry, Lance himself will provide quite a little bit of help. So the Gyarados comes out and immediately goes for Hyper Beam. Lance is not messing around. I actually misclick and hit Swords Dance instead of Spore, but since Hyper Beam didn't knock me out, he has to recharge, so no big deal, I just use Spore right now. I set up my 3 Swords Dance and make sure Gyarados stays asleep. The fact they don't attack the turn they wake up just makes sleep so cheap in Generation 1, that unintentionally rhymed. Anyway, I mimic Hyper Beam, and I think you know how this battle is going to go from here on in. We have 1, 2, 3... Supersonic, that's the one thing I didn't want, but 4! And please don't hit in confusion, 5. So I got pretty unlucky with the Supersonic, and you see, Badge Boost glitch only goes so far. I still don't outspeed Aerodactyl since it's so fast, but I do get past Lance and make it to the final rival fight. But I've struggled mightily with the previous 2 fights, and this one is even tougher. Am I going to be able to do this at as low a level as I'm at? I don't think so, so I'm going to use my rare candy I picked up in Victory Road. This also helps with experience points manipulation. I won't level up during the fight, which is very important. But here we go, the final battle. Pidgeot actually can help me out here if it doesn't use Wing Attack, Sky Attack, or Mirror Move. I get Mirror Move, thank goodness. All are classified as flying moves. That lets me get off Spore and have all my HP. Unfortunately, Pidgeot does wake up before I'm done setting up the 3 Swords Dances, and because of that, it outspeeds me and hits me with Wing Attack. Of course, I put it back to sleep, finish setting up, and that includes mimicking Wing Attack. I thought about this long and hard. There wasn't a better option. Takedown can miss, Cut is too weak, and I wouldn't get to use Hyper Beam. Wing Attack was the best of the bad options. Thankfully, Pidgeot stays asleep and it's a 2-hit KO. Alakazam hits me with Psybeam, and I decide to go for Wing Attack because, I don't know, I guess I was being bold. It is a 1-hit KO, I didn't know that would necessarily be the case, and if that Psybeam confused me, that would have been very bad, so thankfully that didn't happen. I decide to put Rhydon to sleep for, I don't know why I did that, but anyway, it wakes up and I use Dig, so that was just a waste of time. Executor comes out, and I probably should have used Spore because I didn't know if it would be a 1-hit KO. It was, so Wing Attack does prove to be somewhat useful, I guess, in this battle, but I was never worried about these first 4. Gyarados and Charizard are the scariest. I was worried that I wouldn't outspeed the Gyarados, but I do, so I can put it to sleep, and it's a 2-hit KO. That's good as well, and down goes the Gyarados, but here's the big question. Do I outspeed the Charizard? No, I don't, but it misses with Fire Spin, and I use Spore, but the battle isn't over yet if it wakes up first turn. It does not, and now the battle is over. Wing Attack is a 2-hit KO. 30% chance that Fire Spin miss, and he could have gone for Fire Blast, which only has a 15% chance to miss. Lucky, 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 but I will take it after that mistake I made with Body Slam. In the end, didn't actually end up costing me that much time or experience, if you want my honest opinion, because truth be told, had I lost, I probably would have leveled up a lot more until I was able to outspeed the Charizard. The fact I was able to first try it is exactly why these tier lists aren't completely scientific and require a little bit of my opinion on top of the numbers, but here they are again. You can see I've changed the tiers to match Smash Bros. Colors because that's the first time I ever saw a tier list, fun fact. And I've decided to put Paris second last to Abra. Yes, I realize it was at a much lower level than Squirtle. That was luck more than anything else. I also recognize that pretty much every Pokemon has been in its own tier, and that could change. But right now, I do feel like there are very noticeable differences for pretty much every Pokemon I've used, other than Pikachu and Bulbasaur. I really do feel like Paris is very much better than Abra, but very much worse than Squirtle, in that it's a lot more luck-based and inconsistent. Maybe I'll end up putting them in the same tier, but for now, I'm comfortable with that. But that's enough for me. I promised myself I would stop going over half an hour, and every video since then's been over half an hour. But yep, thanks for watching, trying to hit 200,000 subs, thanks for all the support, and I am going to go make another video. Take care, guys.